Five, four, three, two, one. Hildegard Gmeiner, welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. It feels great to be back on the air, folks. This is actually my first show since a little over a month, actually. Mid-April was the last time I did a show. I've been off the air for a bit because, well, Lyme disease kind of set me back. I had been on antibiotics for 3 weeks and a couple of other issues as well, but I do intend to be back on the air now on a full-time basis. 3 shows this week scheduled. Back with a vengeance, I am. And Hildegard, great to have you on. Before I give you the chance to speak your piece on everything, your life story, walk-in experience and all. And by the way, I heard about you from your interview with Neil Gore of Portal to Ascension. It seems like he's going to be helping me a lot with getting guests. A lot of people that I need to contact to be guests on my show, he's interviewed on his channel, and all I have to do to find guests that I want to get on my show is to look at his channel for the people he's interviewed, because he's interviewed lots of fascinating individuals, including you. He'll be a guest on in the near future too. But this is about you. Just a quick little disclaimer for all my listeners. Folks, unfortunately, it's come to the point where I think I may have to make this show partially pay-per-view, where I'm going to have to ask people to pay me on Patreon to be able to listen to the whole entire interview. You got some time, though. I'm not going to do that until summer solstice at the earliest, so you have a little bit of time, but after that, it's going to have to be a little pay-per-view. There's nothing wrong about asking people to pay you for your programs. A lot of people are doing that now a lot more often. And also the Cost.tv interviews. I upload all my interviews and videos from this show, not just to YouTube, but also the site Cost.tv. And I do ask people to listen to the interview on Cost.tv. If it's uploaded, you'll see a link in the YouTube video description. Only listen to YouTube for 15 seconds or so to give me a view credit, and then listen on Cost.tv. After those 15 seconds are up, to the whole entire interview, because I can get some money. Blockchain monetization is how Cost.tv works. And, well, of course, like I said, in summer solstice, that's going to change when I start making maybe 60% of the interviews free, and the remaining 40% will have to be pay-per-view. But this one will be entirely free because we haven't reached the summer solstice yet. So Hildegard, great to have you on. Hildegard was my late maternal grandmother's original name, before she moved to America. She said she didn't like the name, but I can't understand why. It seems like a pretty nice, powerful name, Hildegard. Very, very catchy, if you ask me. So, so I know you must have German ancestry, because she was a German. That was her first language, being born in Germany, as a matter of fact. So I'd like you to talk about your walk-in experience. Neil Gore, actually, on his channel, mentions you, I believe, as a walk-in in the video title in particular. But you could do that, and then after that, we will get into some other things, including those things that you sent me in this video about the opportunity to become a founding member of an advanced high-tech internet technology company. We'll get into that too. But first, Hildegard, your life story, walk-in experience, and everything else that caused you to be the person who you are and do the stuff that you do. You got the floor. I will shut up and put myself on mute. I don't have Alex Jones-itis. I don't interrupt my guests, so no need to worry about that.
You interrupt anytime. First of all, thank you so much for reaching out and for taking interest in, what really is expanding our view of reality, hopefully. It's been quite a trip, and with regards to the name Hildegard, she was an 11th century mystic, so good, almost 1,000 years ago, and she was a rebel. And when I was a little kid in grade 1, and I had an Iris and an Eva sitting next to me, and my name had 9 letters, obviously I didn't like doing all these cursive writing letters, so I didn't like it either, until I had my near-death experience. And then I began to realize, after my mom sending me all these packages of books, and I understand, and I'll tell about this a little later, about this Hildegard von Bingen, after whom she had named me. And I read these books. I'm going, oh my God, this lady is a rebel rouser. You would have found her on Patreon, probably. Anyway, but let's begin at the beginning. I'm so glad to hear your grandmother's name was Hildegard. There are not too many around in North America that I have met. And yes, it's a German name. So I grew up in Europe on a farm in Germany, an extended family. And yet from little child on, I always felt that I don't belong. I would go and look at the sky and I'm kind of thinking, why did you leave me here? Not because my life was bad, much to the contrary. I had a loving grandfather and grandmother and mom and dad and big family, my siblings, and I had lots of room to run around and, plant my own garden and stuff, very much full of freedom in my childhood. Yet on the inside, there was always something that I couldn't put my hands on. And I remember at some point, my dad, I think, was going to buy a harvesting machine together with other farmers of the neighborhood. And that day I saw, I don't know how I knew it. It was not like I could see, like if you're watching a video or something, but I had a feeling about this man guy that he was not honest. And I had a vision, and I didn't know that this was vision. All of these terms were, obviously, I didn't know anything about them. But I had a sense that dad should not do this. And I remember saying to my dad after these men had left, that this is not a good person. You shouldn't do that. You'll be angry. He's not going to maintain the machine. And when you need it, it's always broken down and you'll be yelling and screaming. Anyway, fast forward. I was 33 years old. This married, stay-at-home mom, 3 little kids, lived in the suburbs of Toronto, living this typical stay-at-home mom little lifestyle, when I fainted and collapsed all over the place. My youngest child was only 9 months old. And when I left the house in the morning, I never know if I could kind of make it home again. When brought to hospital, nobody could diagnose my illness. Over time, I was given labels like irritable bowel, chronic fatigue syndrome. Maybe it's a hormonal thing. Maybe it's early menopause because my hair started to fall out and was gray. And I was given all sorts of labels, and the doctors did their very best. But last time I fainted and was brought to the hospital, one of the physicians said to me, you have a very weak cardiovascular system. The next time your head hits the pavement, you might die of a heart attack. And they can be fatal the first time around. So, go get your affairs in order, my dear. You're 33 years old. And I know you don't want to hear this. I mean, the gentleman was really nice, genuinely there to help. But whatever I was dealing with didn't fit in the Western medicine model of disease. Like I wasn't displaying the symptoms yet to apply heart medication or stuff like that. So anyway, it got to the point that I felt like I'm a two-legged medical pharmacy, and I can't do this anymore. Now, that was what happened on the 3D. I want to share with you one experience, or maybe a couple of them. So on this one event, I was outside our house. So imagine a house, a little sidewalk, a little bit of a green strip, and then comes the road. And the children are playing outside. I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old baby. And I was trying to, actually, the baby was older already because he could walk. So it must have been a year or so, toddler. He ran out onto the road, and I'm running after him. And the next thing I knew is that I see the neighborhood running together. Must have been late afternoon, people coming home from work in that subdivision. And I see my oldest holding on, putting his left arm around his little brother. There's a lady in a pink business suit holding my little one, who obviously didn't get run over by a car, thank goodness. And they were putting my body in some ambulance. And I was screaming on the top of my lungs. It was almost like you're flying like a helicopter over your neighborhood, and you can see what's going on outside your house. And I was saying, what's going on? Why isn't anybody hearing me? Why are you looking so sad, children? I'm here, but I can't figure out what's going on with the body over there. Anyway, the next moment, it's almost like you're watching a film in high speed, one frame after the other. It went boom, 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 boom. I am in the distance, see that in this black room, then it turns bright, and there's this massive bright light in the distance. And for a moment, my reflex was to cover my hand with my eyes with my hands, and then I realized, oh, I don't have a body. I'm kind of trying to pat down on my body, and it wasn't there. And I'm thinking, how can that be? How can I think, see, hear, feel, and not have a body? How does that work? And then I thought, oh, maybe I'm dead. All these doctor's appointments, and them telling me next time I collapse, I might die. Maybe I'm dead already. And my first thought was, oh, great. No more doctor telling me, oh, it's postpartum depression. Or, Hildegard, you're making all of this up. You are so skinny. Everybody would love to look like that after having given birth just a year ago. And I'm thinking, maybe that's a good thing that I'm dead. And then, as I was having that inner dialogue, don't ask me how you can have an inner dialogue without a body, I heard a voice in the distance. And as I was hearing this voice, I'm thinking, this is all wrong. I need to go on whoever that is and talk to this person because I have kids. I need to go back. Wherever I am, I'm in the wrong life. I need to go back. If this guy can help me, I need to have a chat with him. And no sooner had I thought of going into that point of light, there was this sensation of a really gentle hug, a warm welcome. You know, as if your parents welcomed you home from a cold winter's day. You might have come home from school or whatever, and then, much to your surprise, your grandparents have a special treat or something. It was so wonderful. I don't recall verbatim what was said. And I don't recall seeing any shape. It was just this light, and I'm there. And how I got there just by thinking of going there, I don't know either. The mere thought of saying, hey, wait, I need to talk to you. This is all wrong. I have 3 little kids at home. I cannot be dead. Somebody do something. This is not right. I was there already. And what I remember, though, was 2 things. One was, you have 2 missions. Raise these children to the light and tell your story and be of assistance to others. And I'm going, yeah, okay, anything. I didn't understand what that meant. Yeah, raise my children, but raise my children to the light. That sounded really weird to me at the time. And why would any really be interested in my story? Like, my logic didn't understand any of that. However, I went back, and then another occasion when I fainted, I found myself at a parking lot. We had a van, 6 months old golden retriever puppy dog that wasn't toilet trained. He was in the van, and the 2 older children in the middle seat. So there's a bench in the back and a middle seat and then a front seat. And I had the front seat, the baby in the front seat with face facing the back, and then the 2 older kids, all of them still in car seats, in the seat behind me, and then the dog at the very back. So we were at a parking lot. We were on our way home. I got into the car, put the car in ignition, and then I saw the car was facing south, and it was October, I think. And I remember leaning over my steering wheel thinking, there's something wrong with that sun. The sun shouldn't be at eye level, so it comes into my van's window. And I'm taking my hands, grabbing the steering wheel, leaning forward to look at what's going on with that sun. And that's all I remember. Next thing I remember is all my children, including the dog, are sleeping. My car keys are still in the drive mode. My engine is off. My radio is off. And I remember very clearly that when I started the car, it had already said 11 a.m. CBC Radio News, whatever. This is the Canadian public broadcasting company that I was listening to at the time. So missing time. How did it happen? that all the 3 children and the dog were asleep for more than what, an hour and a half missing time? How can the sun come parallel to the windshield of your vehicle, no matter how high you may be in a big truck? But that never happens unless you're driving west and the sun is really low, it's about to go down. So there is another one of these question marks I have in my life. But the next thing I'd like to leave you with is this. There was one event, again, I'm fainting, I don't know exactly where it was, grocery store, in a store, escalator. The point is, I have a black screen again, I go unconscious, there's black, and then I'm in this incredibly brilliant, bright room. This time I'm lying on some sort of a massage table, and I see I have a white body, completely white. And around me are 12 people. 2 by my feet, 2 behind my head, 4 on each side. They had chest-long platinum-colored hair. I say it's platinum because I can't really say the color. I haven't seen anything like that here in my 3D life. I just call it platinum. It's a mix between silver and gold. And the beings had eyes probably twice the size as ours. They were almond shaped, positioned exactly the same way that our eyes are positioned. Their skin was super pure and clean. No wrinkle, no blemish, no sign of aging, nothing. And I was totally in awe of these beings. And what was weird, the person standing closest to my right shoulder, I kind of turned my head to the right and looked into the eye of the person standing next to me. And I saw they were wearing some sort of an overall outfit. I can't really say whether it was loose or fitted, but it sparkled. It sparkled like the most expensive opal in a bright sunshine. It has incredible sparkly luminescence to it. And so this gentleman, I say it's a gentleman, I can't tell whether it really was a man or a woman or an androgynous being. He's looking into my eyes and he's talking to me. And I'm agreeing and I'm saying, I'm totally okay with that. Of course, yeah, why not? No problem. I find myself agreeing without really having a recollection of what it was I agreed to. And then I'm going, oh, he's not moving his mouth. He had a mouth, he had a nose, he had 2 ears, 2 eyes and 2 ears. The ears were though a little bit more forward on the head than ours. And suddenly I'm realizing, oh yeah, of course, telepathy. Yeah, that's what we do, of course. And what when I woke up again in a hospital room after an experience like that, and a doctor asked me, so tell me, Mrs. Gmeiner, where were you? What happened? You know, please tell us. What did you experience? We were very worried. You were unconscious. You fell, blah, 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 over there. An ambulance picked you up and brought you in. And I told him, you know, well, I had a walk-in experience. I'm a consciousness scientist from Botus Andromeda, my home planet. And I'm here to anchor higher vibration on the planet. And you can very well imagine how well that went down. The man on the left side of this hospital gurney was my husband of 10 years. And the gentleman to my right, the medical doctor, and he says, well, I guess we need to give her an injection or, you know, some kind of a medication to calm her down. And I remember saying, no injections, pills, please, or, you know, prescriptions or something like that. And yeah, I mean, after this particular event, I really didn't recognize anything about my life anymore. The person that I was married to, my best friend, and I had the 3 children with, I couldn't relate to him at all. Perfect stranger. the drive home on the 16-lane highway that goes through the north end of Toronto, I suddenly felt there's nobody in these cars. This is crazy. There's hurling speed. These people go past each other, but there doesn't seem to be any life energy, any life force in these people. Who is driving these cars? And then I was hearing, never mind, this is not your business right now. We'll explain all of this later. And then when I came home, the kids came to me, Mommy, 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 Mommy. Mommy, we thought you died. Mommy, what's for dinner? Like kids are, you know. And I felt this love and this connection to these beings without really knowing anything about them. But I knew deep inside that my vision, my mission was deeply connected to these children. I still didn't know what it meant to raise them to the light. But strangely enough, I related to these children. And when I asked, and from this moment on coming home, everything had to change in my life. I couldn't eat the food I was going to cook anymore. I couldn't use the hair shampoo or the lipstick, or I couldn't color my hair anymore because they had been very gray. And as a 33-year-old, I didn't want to be white. So I colored my hair. I couldn't do that anymore. I didn't have the courage to drive the car for quite some time. I didn't know what breakfast, lunch, and dinner was. When the kids would come and say, "What's for dinner? What's for dinner?" I kind of crumbled inside, saying, "Somebody please help me. What am I supposed to do?" And then I heard a voice. Her name was Ashta Athena. And she was kind of like the standing commentary. Well, you have a carbon-based body here. You've come from a crystalline into carbon, and here you need to eat food, and you need to drink, and you need to cook, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And she told me, you know, open the tap and put this in there, and there's the water in this pot, and then you open that drawer, and then there you have noodles, and you put this in. And so for about 2 years, I had this. Today, with the technology we have, you know, everybody has a little button in their ear and listens to music or talks on the phone, and you don't see the phone. We didn't have that in 1992. We didn't have internet. We didn't have the language to distinguish the things that I can say now, or analogies I can now bring when I talk about what happened in the early 90s, because we didn't have words to explain things the way I have today. And that's because technology has advanced so much. But so I had this, if you so will, invisible button in my ear, Ashta Athena, who guided and taught me to what it means to be a woman in the early 90s in North America who has to look after 3 children, go shopping, pay the bills, drive the car, do what you do in this world. And at the same time, there was another energy that came in, and I asked for a name, and that name is Louis Marr. And Louis Marr is the orchestrator, if you so will, or one of the many Andromedan intelligences that are in charge of the walk-in program. I did not know in 1992 to call it program yet. All I knew was that I had a soul essence exchange. I had come from 9D, where the 7D, my vibrational essence was stepped down to fit in a small container of a 3D body, and the body was very sick. And then with the guidance from my Andromedan aspect, I was then to learn to rebuild this body. And if I were to succeed at that, obviously I was also then to share the awareness and the consciousness I was gaining in telepathic contact with the A's, with my children and the rest of the world. And yeah, that was a very scary, hairy kind of situation, because the doctors had told me so many things, and my spouse had told me, oh, maybe it's a mental illness, and maybe you need to go to have a psychiatrist talk to you, or maybe I went to all these different doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me with all these fainting spells happening. And I learned initially, I tried to share everything that I've experienced and learned during these fainting spells with my trusted friend and husband. But the more I did that, the more he was turning against me, because he couldn't understand what was going on. And you can't blame that. Imagine your wife comes home one day and tells you that weird kind of a story, or you come home from work and your wife had emptied out your shaving gel and your hair shampoo and your aftershave and 90% of what you had in your house and considered food. She suddenly decides this is totally pestiferous and poisonous. It's had propylene glycol and paraben and rhodiosyl sulfite in that, and that is going to be a neurotoxin, and our family can't have that. How would you react? So obviously that marriage was doomed, and I had to eventually take my kids and run while the running was good. But interestingly enough, it was a psychiatrist. So that was when I still was in my marriage and living with my spouse at the time. I went to see a psychiatrist and something very interesting happened. So I went to the psychiatrist in the Toronto Western Hospital. And I said to him, I said, listen, I have been through all the doctors, all the different experts. You are my last hope. And I know you can help me. I hope you can help me. Previously, a blood specialist, a hematological pathologist, had done serious blood tests on me. One of my loving family physicians said, you should actually look at your blood. Maybe we'll get some answers there. And that lady came in and said, you have a good and have a bad news. And I said, well, give me the bad news first. She says, the bad news is there's nothing in your blood that a healthy, living, sitting body should have. You're sitting here in my office, and what I have here in your blood is absolutely nothing that a living person should have. What's going on? I said, I don't know. You tell me. And she said, you need to go and figure out how to get your adrenaline in order and your liver and this and that. But I am a blood specialist. I can't help you. Go see a naturopath, homeopath, find an Ayurvedic doctor, find somebody who knows about nutrition. You definitely need to have zinc and iron supplements and all of that, because your blood looks really bad. I was really happy. I felt like hugging the woman, because for once she didn't tell me I was nuts. But then the visit to the psychiatrist was very interesting, because he said to me, so first of all, he explained a little bit what his area of expertise was. And he said, I know, I have a sense from what you've been telling me, you're not a case for me, and I'm already getting frustrated. And he says, let me ask you, how was your morning? Give me from the moment you woke up to, let's say, 12 o'clock. So I started at 4:30, taking the baby out of the crib, etc., etc. I wasn't even at 7 o'clock. He said, listen, have you heard of a guy named Galileo Galilei? I said, yeah. He said the earth was round when everybody else said it was flat, correct? He says, yes. He says, the human consciousness is a very interesting thing. And I can tell you what you've performed between 4:30 and 7. You're not the case for mental hospital, my dear. And I suggest you go and take some time out and listen within and ask for other teachers to show up, and they will come. Oh my God, I could have kissed the guy. I was so happy. But that doesn't make things so much better, because I eventually had to leave my marriage. I had to leave everybody behind that was dear to me. Every belief I ever held dear, I had to ditch. I was grown up very Catholic, and I, over time, had to let go of that. And I had nowhere else to turn but to my journal book. And I would say, hello, good morning, Ashta Athena, good morning, Luimana, what do I have to do today? And I would journal. And the interesting guidance from the Andromedans was, they don't tell me what to do. They would just be generally encouraging and saying, well, you did this great, or you have done this really well. I'm amazed how you moved house, how you manifested your place on your own, blah, blah, blah. They would never tell me what to do. But when I asked them, show me, I would get a vision, or there would be coincidental encounters with people, or a book was falling off the shelf, or little messages that only I was able to recognize. Nobody else around me would even notice that this was going on. Or messages would come. I switch on the car, and there was a special song in the radio, and it gave me answers to what I was struggling with. I'm telling you this because what I went through, I think many, many people will go through, or are maybe already going through. Not that they're necessarily walk-ins, but what is happening is that the consciousness of humanity is expanding really, really fast. And many of us have been taught to believe that we are nothing but matter. We are nothing but the material body, which is not true. What I believe the human body is, and again, don't believe a word I'm saying, run it through your own soul software. If it resonates, take it. If not, don't take it. Because I don't believe that, I'm an expert at anything else but my own life. And God knows sometimes I need help with that still. But what I was going to say is, because we have been led to believe that the world is only material, the Newtonian worldview, everything is matter. And Western medicine can do incredible stuff, yet they only look at the material aspect of it. They deny the existence of soul, they deny the existence of consciousness. And I believe now that I, as a human being that had a soul essence exchange, a software upgrade, as you might call it, using computer terms, I am multidimensional. I am a multidimensional consciousness out of which a small aspect has chosen to experience life in this here and now, in this particular body called Hildegard. And what I also learned was that what I thought was crazy, these, oh my God, the music is speaking to me. No, this is how the universe works. Or I hear a voice, or I see something in the sky, and I get a message from the cloud in the sky. This is just naturally how our subtle soul senses communicate with us. Maybe some of you are aware of, clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, kinesthetic abilities. Somebody, has where somebody just puts a hand up and the spoon will come towards them. Human beings used to have very many senses. We used to have 64 chromosomes, not just 24. We used to have many DNA strands. Now we have maybe 2. But imagine, even with the 2 DNA strands, you have maybe 5 physical senses and 5, let's call them extrasense perceptual tools. Children have them. Children up to the age of 7, they don't distinguish between themselves and out there. They see the monster in a closet that resonates at a lower frequency, at a higher frequency maybe, as much as they can see their dog or the cat in their room. When the child says, "Mommy, I don't want to sleep in my room, there's a monster in the closet," there is a monster in the closet. The child called it monster because the young children don't have the communication ability yet to convey what they can sense, what they feel. When a child, let's say extended family gathering, and there's some aunt the child has not seen, maybe for the last couple of years, and this lady says, "Oh, come here and sit on my lap, Hildegard." I had as a child, "No, I don't want to sit on this woman's lap." She was just, she felt scratchy. I didn't want to go near her. Yet we as adults, we go and say, come on, be nice, go sit with Auntie Susie or whatever. What we are missing as parents is, and I only learned that from my children. I'm a slow learner, hence I needed to have a lot of kids to teach me this, that the children's ability to tune in to that field of infinite possibility and consciousness, they have a bigger bandwidth than adults have. We have been conditioned over the years to not listen to ourselves. Remember me telling you initially, I told my dad, this guy, don't buy a harvesting machine with this yellow because you'll be always annoyed and angry. He's not holding up his end of the bargain. And when it came to pass, I knew it. But at the time, when I was a little kid, my dad said, you're a little child. Don't talk to me like that. What do you know? And I remember now that it was exactly at this moment in time that I stopped trusting myself. I shut down my sensitivity. My environment had sent me so many messages in school, playing with other kids, whatever. Toughen up. You're too soft. Toughen up. And when I was ill, then in my early 30s, I learned it's when we recover our feelings, when we allow ourselves to feel and bring that sensitivity back in, we over time learn to listen to that language of our soul. And we get the little subtle messages. Somebody said to me once, God doesn't come along with a ghetto blaster and yells at you and say, hey, Hildegard, you need to turn that way. No, our soul guidance system communicates very subtly with us. And this is what I learned through the A's, because the Andromedans, when I was very sick, I go back a couple of weeks after the walk-in, and the body was so dead and so dysfunctional, problems eating, couldn't sleep. It was just crazy. And I had the feeling that I wasn't in control of my body. Something would take my body over, and then I would get crazily busy and clean and do this and do that and wouldn't sleep. And I asked, so if I'm not an addict, if I'm not drinking, if I'm not smoking, if I'm not snorting or injecting it, what is the addiction? Because my understanding of addiction was that it's something from the outside that I have to put in my body. What happened, I saw, and this was my first realization that I have these subtle senses. I had a vision of a lima bean with a chickpea on the top. Imagine two lima beans and two chickpeas on the top. No, kidney beans, the red ones. Kidney beans with yellow chickpeas on the top. And I had this vision. I was driving the car and I always had in front of me these two things. Didn't matter where I was, what day of night it was, what I was doing. Here in the physical, I always seen this, and it drove me crazy. And I journaled at every moment in time. Luima, I'm seeing these beans, peas, beans, whatever they are. Tell me what this is about. If you guys are so smart and you think I have a job to do, don't you think you should come here and tell me what this is about? Sure enough, we're going into a shopping mall, going to a grocery store. On the way to the grocery store is a bookstore. My 5-year-old runs into the bookstore. He loved books. And a book falls off the shelf. Guess what it showed? So it showed the adrenal gland. And the adrenal gland sitting on the kidney bean, and the chickpea is the adrenal gland size. Looks like a little pea on top of the kidney. So then I knew, I had a clue. My addiction had something to do with the adrenal gland. Then I had to register in university. I wanted to go and find out what I was to learn about the adrenal gland. So I thought to get access to some medical books, you got to register in a university, even if a public interest course or something, social science, French, whatever I was taking. So I get access to the libraries because we didn't have internet then. And I thought, the wisdom of the world is in university libraries, is it not? And then when I discovered that you could actually be addicted to the fear, to the body's defense mechanism called the flight and fight mechanism. This is when the adrenaline gland kicks in, all physical senses are shut down. Well, the ones you don't need to defend yourself. The only thing the body will do, it takes stored glycogen deposits, sugar reserves, makes them into glucose, and then it gets pumped in the big muscles of the legs and the arms. So you can either fight with the aggressor or run away. But what happens is you can't digest food. Your reproductive organs don't work, cell rejuvenation doesn't work. But let's say in the olden days, we lived in the cave and there was a physical threat, the mastodon is coming after me, then that would be really helpful. This is the body's self-protective mechanism. Once we reach our cave again, the threat is away, is over with, then you actually can pick up your normal bodily functions. The brain switches back to normal operating mode, whereas when we are under threat, it's going into the fight and flight. And during the fight and flight, the body then was not able to absorb food, was not able to eliminate waste. Hence, acid stomach, irritable bowel, all of these symptoms suddenly made sense. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I think we're living in a time right now where it is very, very important to get in touch with your inner guidance system. Many of you have GPS in the car. Well, guess what? We can only have a GPS in our car because the human system has its very innate GPS as well. I have this book that I'm writing and hopefully will be out soon. It's on my website, hildegardgmeiner.com. It's called Your Universe, Your Way. And in it, I speak to it that we need to be educated on how our inner wisdom, our inner GPS, our soul communicates with us. It's somewhat different for everybody. I am clairaudient, I see visions, I am very sensitive. Other people can see auras. It's different for everyone. However, I think it's very crucial that we learn to listen to this, because the objective, I feel, for our life is to embrace our God-given talents. And that's what the walk-in experience and the challenges I've been through and raising all these kids. I actually had another child later on. I have 4 grown children now, thank goodness. And they were my biggest teachers. Why? Because the children were in tune. They are totally connected. Children are authentic. They tell you what's going on. They cannot be intentionally false. They will not cheat and manipulate. Much like a dog will come running when the owner doesn't feel well, the dog will come and try to comfort you. And so I think what has happened, at least in my life for 30 some years, was that I lost my sensitivity. I came away from the right hemisphere of the brain. I was only left-brained. It was only logic. My mind was controlling everything. As a workaholic, I needed to be in control of everything, which was totally crazy. No wonder I destroyed my body, by age 33 with 1 foot in the grave. And then when you look into why that happened, usually it's because there are traumas in the past, oftentimes in childhood, that we suppress, and not that there's anything wrong with it, that is natural because we have to function. People who've been through wars, people who've been through terrible traumas and abuses and whatever, in order for the human being to survive, you suppress these traumas. But at the same time, when we suppress our feelings, we suppress our innate access to our guidance system. It's almost like you want to use Google Maps on your phone and the Wi-Fi doesn't work, or your cell phone provider, is no longer giving you the signal. The best GPS isn't doing anything if you can't access it. And all human beings come perfect into this world. We have this innate soul guidance system. Yet, all the things that happen to us in the course of a lifetime, they seem to inhibit our ability to tune in. Now, I'm not saying you're never connected. I think we are connected, but some more, some less. And in my life, and I can only speak about myself, I was severely disconnected. And in that disconnection comes dis-ease. And in some of the workshops, and I'm going to start them online as soon as I can figure out my technology here, again, I always say, what is stress? My grandparents and my family, my parents went through 2 world wars, and they had stress, and they had survival, and they operated on adrenaline. And they didn't know that they operated on adrenaline because they had to be constantly on hyper alert so they would survive. Not so for me here in Toronto. It was relatively safe. There were no bombs flying above. I didn't have to go in a bunker 10 times a night. Yet, me being addicted to this hormonal concoction that the body releases during the fight and flight response had conditioned me to suppress my feelings. Why? Because when I began to feel again, I was addressing or had to address the issues that I had ignored before. And I think it's very important that we are authentic with ourselves. And this is what I'm going to discuss in the workshops. I pick people up on where are you today, right here, right now, the 24th of May, 7 p.m., let's say Eastern Standard Time. Everything I have in my life is my creation. And it comes about because I made decisions in the past, conscious or unconscious. And the consequences of the choices we make in accumulation brings us to our current reality, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is what the A's have taught me over the last 30 years. And I just want to say a little bit more about why it's important to tune in. Because I believe creator, no matter what label you want to stick at it, whatever your religious faith is, you use that label. You can call it God or Jesus, Allah, Buddha, it's fine. I like to call it the force or prime creator. And this force has there's an implicit order to the universe. Implicit meaning unseen. And then there's an explicit order that is in the visible world. So the implicit order in a forest is that you don't see the seedlings in the ground. You see the older trees above the ground, but you don't see what's going on underneath, the whole root system that is developing under the earth before you see something visible. Well, for us as human beings, the invisible is what we believe about ourselves. It's what we have been taught about ourselves. And sadly, in my life, and hopefully it's not true for everybody listening, but for many people that I had the privilege of meeting, it's fear-based. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good looking enough, I don't make enough money, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not educated enough. All of these things, they're usually patterns of fear, low vibration, or fear, and you can tell by the thoughts you have, 60,000 a day or something. Experts like Deepak Chopra, I think, when I listened to him once, said that. Imagine 60,000 thoughts that are all bad about myself. Now, if thoughts, and I assert that there are electromagnetic waves that are sent out into the field. So if I expect bad things to happen, they will happen. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I expect good things to happen, because I believe innately by the mere fact that I'm born, that I'm here, I'm on this planet, I deserve to experience good things. I deserve to be treated well. I deserve to live in a proper house. I deserve to have loving relationships. I deserve to, go to sleep at 10 o'clock if I feel like it. As a workaholic, I was not allowed to do that because I was running on the program I'm not good enough. So I had to work really hard and long and, do more. I was on this German wheel of always doing. I was a human doing more than a human being. And I think it's key, and maybe that is a good thing right now, that especially here in Ontario, hopefully you're not locked down the way we are. We are still under lockdown. It gives us some time to reflect and look inward and see how our mental programming, how our conditioning, how deep is it attached to what's going on outside? Or are you a person who is what the psychologists call self-referred? Meaning, I can feel happy for no reason. I know what's important to me, and I spend my time doing the things that are important to me. And I know that where my mental focus goes, that grows. So if my mind goes constantly on what's wrong and what is not there and what I don't have and what I possibly can't figure out, then that will grow. We are energetic beings, and where our mind goes, where our focus goes, our energy flows. Let me just tell you this, the mind, and this was a big thing for me when I figured out how that mind works, because I had all these thoughts driving me crazy. And then I looked at my car once, which was a stick shift car. It had a clutch, the brake, and the gas, obviously. And then I realized in shifting gears that a clutch, when it's engaged in the right RPM, it smoothly propels us forward. It's a beautiful thing. But what if I was not trained how to use the clutch? Beautiful car, I couldn't do anything with it. The same with the mind. When the mind is running you, and you do not inform the mind, I can tell the mind, this is what I still need to do today, and I'd like you to get going at it. So when I am ready for it, it will come easy and effortlessly, and I consider my mind my secretary now. It's easier said than done, yet it's one day at a time. Whenever you have something in your mind that gives you a negative, depressing, low resonant feeling, override it with something positive. Pat yourself on the shoulder. First and foremost, you won the battle of sperms. You are in this body. How many sperms didn't make it to become even, accepted by the womb of your mother so that it could be birthed? This is a success. If there's nothing else to celebrate, let's celebrate it. Or just be grateful for whatever you have wherever you are, rather than focusing on you don't have, focus on what you do have. And as you learn to instruct the mind with the heart, life becomes so much easier. And you will notice as your thought patterns and actions align, you will have these coincidences happening where you're saying to yourself, how did that happen? That is so cool. I didn't do that. That is such a neat coincidence. No, you were aligned with your unique energetic vortex, because we have a soul. When the soul decides to have an experience on the planet, it puts all the circumstances, all the encounters, everything it wants to experience in this vortex. It's a unique vibrational field. Much like when expecting parents go and decorate a room for the baby and they're buying a car seat and a stroller and so on. Same thing the soul does. The thing is, Hildegard at her workaholic height and totally negative and totally not accepting and loving and understanding. And she was bitching with my guidance all the time. Oh my God, they had a hell of a time with me because I demanded they come down in my kitchen. I need to know it now. And this is the way it's supposed to be. It was terrible. But that was actually a battle that I had with myself. It was the left brain fighting with the heart and the soul and the intuitive mind. And the bigger the gap between the logical mind and our heart and our intuitive mind, the more stress you have. So if you look at life right now, and I would ask you, how would you know if, doing an intuitive awareness session with me would have helped you? What would be the biggest pain? What would be the biggest relief? And you just take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and say, this is what I love about my life. This is what I'm upset about my life. Or this is what feels really nice. This is what feels painful. And you can do that in quiet reflection and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And then as you do that, we can then look into other steps as well. What are the beliefs underneath them? What are your value systems? Do you spend the most time of your day on what you value the most? How much time do you use for yourself? You know how in an airplane they always say you have to put the oxygen mask on the miner or those in need first before you first on you and then on the other people, because if you don't have oxygen you can't help anybody. Well, it's the same in this life as well. I was conditioned to do for others, completely neglecting myself and failing to see that a mother with a broken body cannot be good to anybody. So I wanted to just let you know that there are systems and patterns and worlds and realms. I very much believe there is intelligence beyond this planet. They're on a different frequency band. But I also believe that in the body of stars we see in the night sky, there are different galaxies and there is infinite life out there. If I ever get to see the Andromedans here in my kitchen, I don't know. However, I know that I have that connection to them and what I've learned through their guidance, which initially came only through journaling, because I was so paranoid. I didn't teach anybody. I didn't try to listen to anybody. I didn't try to talk to anybody. I didn't trust anybody after a while. I felt I needed to just hide. And because I had a lot of negative experience when I was really sharing with people what I was going through, I was constantly reprimanded, judged, criticized, and I shut down. I shut down completely for probably 20 years. I pretended to be this mom and this communication person, and I did live in the forest, moved out of the big city in the country, and I didn't want to have anything to do with the rest of the world beyond what the needs of our kids was concerned. And I think it was necessary for me to do this as well. And now it's a time for me to share what I have known. And I must honestly say, in a way, it's scary because, I have a lifetime where they would, crucify me or burn me at the stake and things like that. But this is old past life. It's not going to happen anymore again. It's safe to be on this planet. All of us who are here come here for this incredible experience. We are here to bring this planet into a completely new age, and not new age in the sense of, I don't know how to describe this term. We're bringing a new era in. We are entering into Aquarius, which means it's going to be people valuing their connection to each other again, connection to the earth. We are to heal each other and the planet. And here's the piece why the walk-ins were sent in. I don't know if I still have time. Just speak up, Andrew, if I'm going on too much here.
Keep going. You can keep all right.
So the walk-in program was because in the 1930s, 40s, there were secret scientific experiments done with nuclear power. And we all know about what happened in Japan. And now imagine you're in a high-rise building, and in one of the floors, somebody has a child in a playpen and maybe firecrackers or whatever. And because we here in the three-dimensional world have been conditioned to believe there's nothing besides us out there, we didn't really think of the consequences on anybody else but here on us on this planet. But the fact of the matter is there is life beyond the 3D, and our brothers and sisters from different dimensional worlds on a different story of the high-rise building, if you so will, they saw the kids were playing with fire in the playpen. And they were thinking, what can we do about it? There's a cosmic law of non-interference. An evolutionary species cannot be interfered with. And yet some people apparently did that to give us the ability to have nuclear power before we were spiritually mature enough to handle it. So then what happened? A call went out through all the galaxies and said, we need to have some people who are willing to parachute in there, and they need to anchor higher vibration onto the planet. And initially, when I journaled this, it's now, 29 years ago, I thought I was losing my mind because I didn't know anything about the military and, global politics, let alone galactic politics. But it made sense to me as years went by, because what they said was, so what we decided, we brought in the walk-in program. And I think, well, but what can I do? I'm a stay-at-home mom with 3 little kids. I'm not very educated. I have a background in languages and foreign trade, whatever. Yes, I'm a journalist, but what can I do? Little Hildegard. But then they said, there will be people waking up in all walks of life, in law, in education, in communication, in transportation, in engineering, in any field, in every part of the world, at a predetermined time by their soul. And there will be a massive cosmic awakening happening. And you are all a part of that. And they said, life on this planet was never supposed to be slavery, you're never supposed to suffer and fight, but there are factions on this planet that pin one against the other while the third one runs away with the cookie jar. And that needs to stop. And it will stop because the people on this planet will take their earth back, period, full stop. And each and every one of you plays a role in it. So what was amazing, I had journaled this in the early 90s. In 2021, in January, there was a first walk-in conference. I had never heard of walk-ins before until about 6 years ago. And I was invited to speak at a conference here in Ontario. It was organized by MUFON, Alien Cosmic Expo. And I thought I'm just going to go and check this out, but I wasn't so sure whether I wanted to talk about this. And I happened to stand at the back door next to the gentleman, and we were talking, and he said, well, what brings you here? I said, I'm just going to check this out. Somebody said I should come here. And you had like an experiences day. And I don't know what this is. And he says, well, are you an experiencer? So what is an experiencer? So this gentleman's name is Grant Cameron, and you can look it up, President's UFO. He's been in the UFO, paranormal, ET field for a very, very long time. And actually, there was a 4-day conference on Portal to Ascension just this past weekend. You can just type it into YouTube, Portal to Ascension 2021 spring conference or something, and you can hear Grant there as well. Anyway, long story short, Grant says to me, so what drew you in here? I said, oh, I had some strange experience with some Andromedans. And he says, what? I said, yeah, I had these near-death experiences, and I was surrounded by these people, and ever since then I'm trying to figure all of this out. And I learned to keep quiet about it because I didn't get very good feedback from people when I was talking about these things. And then the guy actually goes up on stage, and he was I didn't know that at the time, but he was the gentleman who was going to run that Experiences Day. And I felt encouraged to speak about my walk-in experience in 2016 for the very first time in public, like 500 people. And I'm going, oh my God. Much to my surprise, many people, I had only 10 minutes to talk, and many people afterwards came to me and said, guess what happened to me? Guess what happened to me? And in my ear, I would hear Louis Ma laugh his head off, and he said, Hildy, what did I tell you 30 years ago? The people will come. You just be yourself, be authentically yourself. You speak as honestly as you can about what you experienced, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And in doing so, you will make a difference to other people. And I believe that is very much true. I have now been in contact with people from different parts of the world. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, I run an experiences group. These are people, some of them are in secret space programs, some of them have done PhD on elves, some people seeing orbs, all sorts of things. And what is an experiences group? We just allow people to share their experience without judging them, without criticizing them, without giving them any kind of commentary unless it's invited in. Because many of us experiencers have been bashed, have lost our lives in the true sense of the word a couple of times. My house caught fire, almost run over by a truck. I always saying I'm a cat with 9 lives on my 11th. And this has not been funny. In retrospect, yes, I'm still here to tell the tale, thank you. But it's not been a walk in the park. And I really don't like it when people say, oh, well, you're talking a ton of bullshit. Yeah, well, you're entitled to your opinion. Yet in our experiences group, we are making sure that everybody is being heard, because I think God is not an idiot. Everybody on this planet was put here for a purpose. All of us have a special mission, and we are here to help each other figure out this or that. And if there's something I can do to help you, please feel free to reach out. Another piece of my healing, and I just want to take 1 minute to talk about that, is when we are so full of fear, our body is very dense. And much like you can't plug a 220 volt hairdryer in a 120 volt outlet, the higher you want to go in your awareness, this is why I call this intuitive awareness consulting and higher awareness by your self-awareness, the more you need to make sure that your physical body can handle the higher frequencies and anchor them in the body. We cannot do that if we have non-functioning body, meaning I needed to clean my colon, my kidney, my liver. My diet changes still all the time. I cannot do the shampoos that are laden with chemicals. I cannot eat the food that are microwave dinners, or they have food coloring red in it, or MSG, or things like that. So my sensitivities to what might otherwise be considered normal, I cannot have that anymore. And that's why I'm saying again, don't let anybody tell you what you need to do, put in, on, and around your body. This is why it's so important to learn to listen to our inner guidance, because then you have a feeling, I need to have ginger water today. Cutting ginger put it in the pot, boil it, and I had to go for quite some time after that walk-in experience on just living off ginger water, some chicken broth, some, like, I didn't intentionally fast. I was eating crackers or fruit or certain things. I would eat things, but I completely was different than what I used to cook before. I would cook it still because that's what the kids were used to, or that was at the time my husband wanted when I was still living with him. But for me, I couldn't cope with that anymore. I used to be a coffeeholic, cups of coffee, ground coffee, teaspoonful in a cup, sugar, white sugar. Can't have sugar. I didn't have sugar for 30 years. But way back then, I would put a teaspoon of sugar and then boil water and pour this on the coffee grounds. Once I figured out why I did that, I did cold turkey coffee, no more coffee. Why did I took my coffee that way? Because it triggered me back to when I was a little child, and my grandfather, I would crawl out of bed, run down to the kitchen, and grandfather would be there with grandma eating breakfast. And this is how they made their coffee. They only had 1 cup of coffee a day. That was a special treat to them. They grew up during the war. These people knew how to cherish stuff. So that I had 1 cup of coffee, and then I'd sit on his lap, take a teaspoon, and I could take a little bit of grandpa's drink. And when I realized that this was a displacement activity for what was going on in my life, I suddenly didn't need the coffee anymore. I went from, 10 cups or 20 cups of coffee a day, I didn't count them, but massive amount of coffee, to cold turkey, no more coffee. So I wanted to just say that because all walk-ins, and we had this conference then in January 2021, organized by Sheila Seppi. Sheila Seppi is the author of the book Walk-ins, so it's www.walk-ins.org. And there are, I don't know exactly how many, are we 15 or 20 walk-ins from all over the world who share their story. There's a chapter about my story as well. And it was fantastic to see and meet. Before we had the conference, Sheila organized us getting to know each other. And we have also once a month a get-together where everybody can join, speak about their experience. Some are walk-ins, some are not, but it's specifically for the walk-ins. It's much like an experiences group like I have on Wednesday nights. But you can find this information on Sheila Seppi, sheilaseppi.org, or you can go better to walk-ins, walk-ins.org, and visualliance.org as well. And this is for walk-ins and hybrids, etc. as well. Yeah, I mean, I could talk forever, but I'm not sure whether I'm hitting the mark here, Andrew.
You've hit the mark so much. I don't think there's really any need for me to ask any questions at this point. It's all those people who were chopping at the bit to hear my great radio voice after all this time being off the air. Well, you didn't have to hear it because I had a rare gem, guest who can keep talking without me having to interrupt. It's wonderful having someone like you on the show. I love it very much. And all those people who had accused me in the past of not letting my guests speak don't know what they're talking about, obviously, because I let you do that all along here. And well, I guess just to close out, why don't you give your website, and you have more than one website. There's a couple of sites. If you want to make a brief sales pitch, knock yourself out. Pure Trim seems like you have something to do with that site and the products that are there. If you want to get out what those are, by all means, knock yourself out.
First of all, hildegardgmeiner.com. So it's HILDEGARD. That's my first name, Hildegard. And then G for George, M for Mother, E for Edward, I for Isaac, N for Norman, E for Edward, R for Robert. Gmeiner.com. So this is where you can connect with me regarding consulting if you're interested, or any just sharing, or maybe you want to share our Toronto Experiences group, which is completely online now. People from all over the world join us now. we will actually have Chiara Windrider be our guest this coming Wednesday. I don't know if you have heard of Chiara. You can go to chiarawindrider.com to look him up. And we have usually a speaker, and then the next week we just do a get to know each other, because there are always new people coming and joining us. But you can just email me via my website, and then you can participate in the Toronto Experiences group if you like. You're very welcome to. And then with regards to the walk-in information, you can go to Sheila's website, which is walkins.com. So it's www and then walk, WALK-INS.org. This is walkins.org. And you can read some excerpts from the different walk-ins as well. And Sheila has done a beautiful job accumulating all these stories. There are some people from Australia, a lady from Norway, somebody here in Northern Canada, then many people from the US of A. Yeah, it's amazing. And what is very humbling, Andrew, really is that what I journaled 30 years ago has become a reality. Yes, Mission 1, raise these kids to the light. I danced at my oldest son's wedding 2019. Had I listened to my medical doctor to go home and get my affairs in order and wait to die, I couldn't accept that. And I'm like, okay, his diagnosis was probably 100% correct from within the frame of reference he was seeing things at. But I still believe everybody has the power to turn their fate around, simply by putting our focus on something else and ask for help when you need it. And you don't need to really know where to ask help from. You could just sit in your chair and say, please, universe, God, Allah, Muhammad, Jesus, Mother Mary, whoever, now would be a bloody good time to show yourself I need help. Because, Jesus Christ apparently said, ask and you shall be given. And it's so amazing that I have the privilege of having you, Andrew. We've sadly never met in person. Hopefully we will one day. That you call me up out of the blue and let me share my story. Thank you so very much. Now with the puretrim.com, so this is hildegard.puretrim.com. That is a very interesting product line. A medical doctor who got very sick himself, Dr. Mark, and he was severely overweight, had to deal with this weight issue. And he came across the Mediterranean approach to not only weight loss, but also take care of joint pain. I have severe cardiovascular problem, and we have a product called Cardio9 that is a natural nutrient complex that actually brings more oxygen into the system. In fact, it triggers the body to create nitric oxide, which is a molecule that transports oxygen through the cells. Yeah, it's really a very, very interesting product. And again, when the student is ready, the teacher showed up. And when a couple of years ago, my medical doctor in a regular checkup said I need to have my thyroid removed, everything inside of my body said, no, it's kind of the fuel injection system of the body, because thanks to the Andromedans, I've learned a lot about how the body works. I never studied medicine. I didn't even know what a colon and a kidney was until that happened 29 years ago. But over time, I was pushed to take an interest. And when you are interested and when you are asking for help, a teacher shows up. And that's how it happened that somebody introduced me to this opportunity. I said, well, I'm looking for something. I think hormonal problems, thyroid, has to do with liver. But I don't want to go to a health food store and buy something off the shelf. I want to talk to somebody who really knows stuff. And so I got this call from a former, well, not really neighbor, but when we lived in the country, this guy lived a couple of towns over. And he called me back and said, "Hey, how are you doing? I haven't spoken forever." And I said, "Yeah, I'm dealing with this issue with my thyroid, but I don't want to have it removed. Can you help me with something? What do you know?" And he says, "Well, you should come and meet this doctor." He was very ill, saw 16 patients a day. All his medical doctors couldn't help him. And now he is doing this, and he is creating an opportunity for people to get their health back. And it's super inexpensive compared to what I had to pay before and didn't get any results from. Mind you, I'd never found any three-prong approach. So this is like a liver cleanse, and it has liquid minerals and vitamin in it. And then there's a colon cleanse component with the liver cleanse. Same with the weight loss. He has a package for a specific challenge the person deals with. You have a joint problem, guess what? There's a joint package that you can take depending on which part of the world you're living in. Overseas, they don't have the same that is available in the US and Canada, but it's brilliant. And again, I think it's what resonates with you is right for you. And that's very empowering. I am so happy today to see how that journey went, Andrew. And I bet my bottom dollar if you talk for an hour, you have an interesting path as well, because it takes a man with a big heart and big compassion for humanity to have the courage to put something together like you're doing. You're just doing it. It's
Well,
amazing.
thank you very much. And yes, I went through a lot of effort for this show, and audience size may not really show for it, but believe me, there's a lot of stuff on my show that makes it worth listening. So,
Right.
with that being said, we'll I guess bring this interview to an end. It was like I said, a rare gem having someone like you who just keep talking and talking and talking without me having to interrupt or even think of asking any questions, because you answer everything I could have possibly thought of asking you based on what there is out there on your sites and whatnot. So that being said, we'll bring this to a close. And just in case I didn't tell my listeners at the beginning during that quick disclaimer, going to be cutting back on the amount of time I do these shows. Not going to be 2 hours anymore. It's probably going to be an hour to an hour and a half at most now, because I get bitched for a long time about people having lousy attention spans. Well, maybe I need to do something about it, because I don't know if it's going to be helped that much. Well, hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe if humans rise in consciousness, their attention spans will get better as a result. But anyhow, trying to go to 3 shows a week now.
Love you, right? Like you're doing a service that other people do not offer, and you never know. It will grow.
Yes.
Build, and they will come, and you're doing it. So I applaud you for that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you, Andrew.
You're very welcome, Hildegard. Take care, namaste, and good luck with that lockdown wherever it's going in Ontario.
Everybody, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.